Hey everyone, welcome to Two Car Pros. My name is Ryan, and today I'm going to show you exactly how to change the oil and filter for a Ferrari 360. Now, a lot of the time when I post Ferrari content on this channel, I always get comments like, well, people that own Ferraris don't necessarily watch these videos, why do you post them? Well, because it's fun. It's really cool to see the very top of the automotive spectrum be basically the same as the bottom. There's still oil, there's still a filter, and both those things need to be replaced. And I think it's really fun to watch. And you never know, maybe 360s in the future are cheap enough to where people can afford them and take them to track days and don't necessarily want to take them to the dealer and pay thousands of dollars, literally, for an oil change. This is something you really could do at home with jacks and jack stands and normal tools. You just need a little bit of automotive knowledge and Ferrari specialty knowledge on how the dry sump system works and how to re-oil it and things like that. Also, important note, this is not my car. This is a client's car that came in. I had permission to film it, and I thought it would be interesting. With all that out of the way, let's jump in.
Just so I can kind of show you where we're going to be working today. We're walking all the way to the back of the vehicle. We first need to remove this under balance piece, this or skid plate, air dam, whatever you want to call it. And we need to start by removing the screws at the back of the valance. So the first thing we're going to do is remove these Phillips head screws on the underbalance. There's nothing special to these, just don't strip them, obviously. On our way. So on each side of where the valance connects to the bottom of the car, it looks like there are two more Phillips head screws, so just do that for both sides. So before we can remove this underbalance piece, you might notice that the underbalance piece actually kind of traps the lift arm. The thing is connected around the jack point, which is right here. So we're gonna have to do a little bit of trickery in order to get this thing off of there. But before we do that, let's go ahead and remove all the 10mm bolts that hold the underbalance to the car, except for there's a bolt right here and a bolt right there. We're gonna leave those two in, that way it stays where we want it, but we can get the valance off easy once the lift arms are out of the way, and I'll show you exactly how to do that. So just go around and remove all the 10mm bolts that aren't those two. So the only thing holding this on are the two 10mm bolts flanking the valance, but now what we need to do is use our screw jacks and basically lift the rear of the car up, swing our arms out of the way, remove those two bolts, and then we can get the valance off. So this is kind of an exciting part. You really want two nice beefy screw jacks here. It's actually easier on the ground because you can just use two regular floor jacks. And what you want to do is just tighten them in unison and lift the vehicle up so it comes off the arms. So now that our rear of our car is fully supported by our screw jacks, what we're going to do is you just can lift this up a little bit. And then you can even spin the puck down if you want to, but I think it's going to clear. And we can just move our arm out of the way, do that for both sides, and now we can get our balance off. So now the only thing holding this on is two bolts. We can go ahead and hold it up as we are taking the last bolts out. Because it's going to want, the butt is going to want to come down first. And then we should be able to kind of shimmy it down. Bring it backward first, because there's a little lip it needs to clear at the front. Like that. And then we can move it forward, down and away. So I've already put my lift arms back where they need to go, so I can go ahead and lower our screw jacks down in unison. So it sits back on my lift. I mean, truthfully, you could probably do this with the screw jacks in place, but I like having the room and adjustability of the lift. And just try to do them as evenly as you can. There we go. Now we can get these guys out of here. We won't need them again until we put the underbalance piece back on. So before we do anything, go ahead and grab some compressed air. This is actually the top side of the engine where the oil filter lives, and we're just going to blow that around so no dust or ickies get inside of our engine. There we go. And then I'm going to take a sharp implement, and you can use a sharp screwdriver or something, it'll work just as good. And we're just going to pop a small hole in the top of the filter itself. A little bigger. There we go. That's perfect. So now we're underneath the vehicle, and this is the front, very front of the engine. This is our first oil drain location, and that is a 12mm Allen. And we can just break that loose, make sure it's fully seated in the fastener. Usually you just break them loose and they come out by hand. And wear some eye protection, you know, you don't want to get oil in your eye. And then we're just gonna let that drain out. So now I am basically at the back of the engine. This is the bottom of the transmission, but it has an oil sump too for the engine oil. Don't get that confused. And that is a 14mm Allen. And we can just get that draining. Again, most of the time you just need to break it loose, and then you can just take it out with fingers. There we go. We're just gonna let that drain fully out. There's a lot more in there than I thought. So what we're gonna do is grab some carburetor spray and just hose down our drain plugs and clean those off. We just wanna make sure there's no contaminants on there. While we're cleaning them, we're gonna go ahead and just remove the copper washer that's on there as well. There we go, look at that. See, it looks brand new. And then we can grab a new one, slap her on, set it aside, do the same thing for this one. Set that aside. And there's a magnet on this one, so make sure you give it an extra helping of cleaning. Yeah, see got some ickies on there, so yeah, you wanna just, you know, make sure it's reasonably clean. That looks pretty good. And then put the new washer on there. And both of these are ready to go back on the car. So now we can take some carburetor spray and just clean the flange surface for the drain bolt. You just want no contaminants on there. There can be a little bit of oil. You're not going to get every single drop of oil out of the engine or off that flange. Oil's okay, dirt's not. And then we can just start the plug by hand. Just like that. That looks really good. And then we're just gonna tighten it down. The torque spec's like 10 foot-pounds. It's really not much. In fact, I don't have a torque wrench that's in 1/2-inch drive, which is what this ratchet is for this socket. So I'm just gonna kind of feel it out. There you go. That feels like 10, and I think it's gonna be perfect. And then we can do the exact same treatment for the front drain plug. Just want all that contaminants, all those ickies off of there. Yeah, see, it looks so much better after you clean it off. Look at that, looks way better. And then we can just start threading on our drain plug by hand. Don't cross thread it, it's easy to do. So just kind of feel it out. There we go, I felt it kind of go in its groove. If it's not going in that easy, it's probably cross threaded, so take it out, do it again. And then the torque spec for this is 10 foot-pounds as well. And again, same situation last time, I don't have one that will work for me, so I'm just going to kind of feel it out. And you can strip this, it's just an aluminum pan, so it's easy to pull the threads out. And then you're really in trouble because this pan is really expensive. So, you know, just snug, we'll be just fine. So to get this oil filter out, what I'm going to do, there's a number of ways you can do this, but I think what the easiest way is going to do is grab my 906 oil filter socket and just flip it over it. And then what I'm going to do is feed an extension down there so you guys can kind of see what I'm doing. Just break it loose, just like that, and now we can get this whole arrangement out of there. So I'm going to take a shop towel and just kind of put it down here because it's probably going to drip a couple drips of oil. And then we can just loosen it the rest of the way. There we go. I'm going to turn it up like that to remove it. So I've kind of switched angles on the camera so you can see how my arm is getting down here. This is where we were earlier. So kind of zooming out, and then we can just kind of fish the filter out just like that, and the old filter is out. So where the mating surface is for the oil filter, you want to make sure that that's clean as well. I have a little bit of carb spray on this terry towel, and you just want to make sure that surface is nice and clean, because I can tell it's already getting cleaned up. A little hard to get to, but not so bad. So here is our new oil filter. I will try to leave a link down below that will work for your car on a 360 here. This is the one you want to buy, and I have already moistened the seal with some oil, so it is ready for install. And then we can just feed it down the same way that we took it out. So you kind of have to get a little far in there and reach down.
So when you're putting this on, just make sure you're not cross-threading the threads. Make sure they're going on nice and easy like this one is. If it doesn't feel quite right, just take it off and try it again. There's no rush, there's no competition. It's not a big race or something. Ooh. And as for tightness, just like a regular oil filter until it gets snug, and then maybe like half a turn more, and should be good. Or maybe as tight as you can get it on with one hand. It doesn't have to be crazy tight. That's perfectly fine. So now we can remove our oil cap here, which is also our dipstick. Set that aside, and we're just going to place a nice clean funnel. So here is our engine oil. It is Shell Rotella 15W40 full synthetic diesel engine oil. My mentor Ferrari Steve says this is the stuff for this car, and I'm not going to argue with him. He's been doing it since before I was born. So the filling procedure on a Ferrari like this one, it will most likely use the full 10 quarts, but you can't just throw 10 quarts in there and hit go, because you can airlock the engine. It's really bad for it. There's a chance you can damage it. We're going to avoid that. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So the first thing we're going to do is put in 6 quarts of our engine oil. Okay, that is about 6 quarts. Perfect. Now we can move on. So then we can remove our funnel now that our 6 quarts are in. And I know, I can hear you. That's not the full capacity of the car. I know, but you can't just put the 10 quarts in. Trust me. We're going to put the cap back on so nothing can get in there, and now we can move on. Okay, so now I'm inside the car, and what we need to do is start it for 30 seconds. Just start it for 30 seconds, and we can continue our oil filling procedure. So now it's been running for 30 seconds. A lot of the oil has been sucked out of the sump, put into the engine. So we're going to get a more accurate reading on the oil level, and if you just kind of put all 10 quarts in, without warming it up, or not warming it up, or letting it run for 30 seconds. In fact, that's about 30 seconds. I'll turn it off. What happens is the engine can get airlocked and actually get damaged, like I mentioned earlier. That's why you kind of have to do this like little careful dance with the oil so we can get everything just right and make sure the car is nice and lubricated. So we can remove our oil cap again and place our funnel, because now we need to add 3 more quarts. So there is our 9th quart. So there's only 1 quart left in this container. And then we can take our funnel out again and replace the cap again, like so. Because now we actually need to warm the engine completely up. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So now here comes the kind of involved part of changing the oil. What we're going to do is we're going to turn the engine back on. We're going to let it warm up. Just let it idle. You don't need to wang the throttle or anything. Just let it idle until the front fans click on. And then they're going to click on, cool the engine back down, leave the car on. Then the fans will click off. Keep it going. Let the fans click back on until they click back off. Then you know the thing is completely warmed up. The engine is not going to get any warmer. Oil has been circulating through it. The oil is as big as it's going to get relative to its heat size. And then after that, you're going to take the RPM and put it at about 2,000, 2,500, that neighborhood, and keep it there for 30 full seconds. Then, after the 30 seconds are over, turn the ignition off. Don't let the thing come back down, on its own. Leave the car on, and then when you're at 2,000 for that 30 seconds, click it off. Then hustle back to the rear of the car where the engine is, and then you can check the oil. It needs to be within 1 minute. Ferrari is very particular about that because the oil level can change within that minute, and then it might be wrong. So you have to do it that way. Now we're just going to let it do its thing. It's probably going to be a little while. So here's what the fans sound like on. They should be roaring like that, and then they'll click off, and click back on, and then click off again. Okay, now that our fans have cycled twice, what I'm going to do is bring the engine to about 2,000 RPM for 30 seconds. And then once the 30 seconds are over, turn the engine off, quickly head to the back. Alright, there's our 30 seconds. You got a minute to get this happening. Oh, it's toasty. Clean it off, insert it back down, and then take it out. Wow, that's hot. Be careful on that. And you can see that the level is just a smear on the end of the stick. Little challenging to see. But yeah, you can see it just right there at the end of my finger, but we want it like a little over halfway, so we've got to add some more.
Then we replace our cap and we can do the 30-second procedure again. Ooh, it's hot. It's a little tough to see on camera, but the sheen of the oil is like right there, just a little bit over half, which is perfect, exactly what we want. So we can replace our oil cap and snug it down for the final time. There you go. And I've already put our underbalance piece back on. I put all the bolts in and just go around and double check them and make sure that all the bolts are nice and tight and all of the screws for the back of the balance piece are nice and tight. They just have to be snug. You don't need to torque them down crazy or anything. And I did put some additional washers on there because this plastic is getting old and brittle and we don't want it to fall off and break. I'm sure this underbalance piece is several $1,000s, so we're going to do our best to keep it on the car. But this is basically what the end product should look like. And you'll notice I don't have my lift on. I have my screw jacks here, so it's exactly the same as taking it off as going back on. And once you have that, you're all done with this repair.
So that is how to replace the engine oil and filter for a Ferrari 360. It's really interesting to see that this is basically exactly how every oil change is done, except for a little bit different on the checking procedure, and that's just due to it being a dry sump and how that whole system works, where normally you don't have to worry about that kind of a thing. But since this is an exotic, you do have a little more steps to it. But basically, it's exactly the same as changing an oil in a Honda Civic. So I hope you've enjoyed this oil change video. This is something I like to do here and there when a client brings in a car that is interesting, that I know not a lot of people have, but I like to show it because even as a little kid, I always wondered if oil changes and maintenance were the same on exotics as it was for like a regular pickup truck or something like that. And basically it is. Thank you so very much for watching. If you found this video helpful or interesting at all, please consider becoming a member down below. It is a direct way to help the channel out. Barring that, a like, subscription, and comment go a long way in the algorithm and really help the channel out. Again, thank you so very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.